Welcome to the third episode of the University School True Crime Podcast. I'm here with my co-host,
Joey Valerio,
and a new guest,
Dominic Harrison,
and a returning
Tristan Jackson.
So, I figured in honor of my birthday being the day before recording this, that we would look at the case that kind of got me into forensic science and got me into true crime podcasts and true crime in general. And that is the Emma Walker case. So, this is a solved case, and the offender is in prison, and he is serving a very, very long sentence. So, her name is Emma Jane Walker. She was born March 20th, 2000 in Knoxville, Tennessee. She grew up in a small, rural, religious town just outside of Knoxville, and she died November 21st, 2016 in Knoxville at age 16. So she went to high school at Knoxville Central High School in Knoxville, Tennessee, and she was an honor student. So athletically, she was on the cheerleading team since freshman year, and she was very into competitive dance. So for her volunteering and her career that she planned on doing after high school and college, she planned to be a nurse when she was done with high school, and she wanted to be a neonatal nurse, so working with infants in ICU or premature babies. Emma volunteered at an animal shelter regularly, and this is where this case turns into a bad situation, but nobody realized it at first. So there was this boy named Riley Gall. So during freshman year at Central High, Emma met a boy by the name of Riley Gall. So Riley was 2 years older than her at the time that they had met. So not very unusual. And Riley was the star wide receiver on the football team. He was also very active in his church, and he was known to be a great student. And overall, he was just kind of that quote-unquote boy next door. So on paper, these two looked really good together. His friends say that he was just kind of a nerd growing up, and he was into Star Wars. And as he got older and he got into high school, he became very involved in football. And as I'll talk about, he did something during prom that kind of worried Emma's friends and family. So due to his prom antics, they figured that he was not prioritizing her, and they were worried about her getting hurt by him in an emotional way. And they expressed their concern to her, but she was very stubborn and independent and really liked to make her own mind up. So she didn't really move on the subject at all, and she disregarded their concerns. And when it came to Riley, within their family and friends, there was tension regarding the subject. With the couple, so Emma had a crush on Riley when they met, but Riley was dating somebody else at the time. However, it was not long until he broke up with the other girl to date Emma. So they were initially that type of quote-unquote storybook romance. He's the football star and she's the cheerleader, that kind of relationship. So here's the prom antics. Even though Riley had broken up with his previous girlfriend, he still promised to take her to the prom, all while still with Emma. So he took his ex junior year and then Emma senior year, which made Emma's parents very concerned. At least in my mind, that's just kind of a red flag right there.
Yeah, no, that's a big one.
I don't know what to say about that one. For real.
I mean, so when they first got together, though, she was still a freshman and he was a junior.
Yes.
That's a little weird in itself.
Yep.
I mean, it's weird, but it happens a lot.
It does.
I've never understood how people can not see that as weird.
Yeah, I mean, you're dating essentially a 13-year-old, and you're
Right.
15, 16?
Right. You're dating someone 2-3 years younger than you. How do you not see that as off?
Or illegal in any way
or
possible.
even though it's even though it's not illegal, it feels illegal.
Well, no, it is technically illegal, because if you guys were to move forward in that relationship, and
eventually,
and if he was 16, then
Yeah, this all could have been stopped if she was not as stubborn.
If she just took the red flags that were right in front of her.
And listen to your parents. Most of the time, your parents know what's right for you since they're loving and they care about you a lot and don't want anything to happen to you. So I listen to them, if anything. I mean, I know being independent is one thing that your parents want, but in these situations, you definitely should take their advice since they've probably, been through it as long as, more than you have been alive. So I would take their advice over anything.
Yeah, and when it came to this couple, they didn't last very long at all. They started breaking up on and off all the time. And after dating on and off for 2 years, Riley ended up graduating high school, and he attended Maryville College, which was about an hour away from Emma. So Emma's friends started expressing concern about the fact that Riley never really seemed interested in getting to know them or hanging out with them at all. And it was really an odd thing. He did not want to do much with her friends. He also did not want her to have much to do with her friends.
Well,
So already it's just a very controlling situation.
Oh,
Yeah.
no doubt, that's
I
very
was-
controlling.
yeah, I was gonna say like up until the point where the friends had said that he didn't want her hanging out with her friends. That's
Right.
that's far.
That's changing life.
Yeah.
Since you've known them forever,
Right.
That's it's very changing and controlling. And him not wanting to hang out with them while she's with, her friends. That is a choice and all, but
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta open yourself up if you're
Like,
Right.
dating this person.
You have
wanting
to have
get
some
them know.
type of-
You have to know who they're close to and
I think-
stuff, and get to know
I
them.
think it kind of comes with the whole dating thing where if you're dating someone, you're going to have to meet their friends and become friends with their friends. Otherwise, it's just going to complicate things. And the fact that he just avoided all that seems kind of weird to me.
yeah, and at least tolerating them is a good
Right.
part of it
Right.
to a point,
Yeah.
No one said you had to be friends with them. You just, if anything, if you're hanging out with them, just hang out with her while she's in her group, so she's at least happy in the same realm of she's with you, she's still with her friends and
Right.
having fun. You don't have to interact with them if you don't like them. Just give it time with her if that's, if you like her that much or want to date her, then do that.
Right.
And kind of going on the controlling point that I was just talking about, there was stalking and controlling from Riley's side.
Well, you said there was stalking?
Yes, and
That's-
you'll see it gets worse as it gets to the end of Emma's life.
Well, that's very deep. Now, stalking is a whole nother level.
It gets very, very complicated and complex towards the end of Emma's life with the tactics that Riley had used to get Emma's attention.
Yeah, that's kind of
Stalking is a
It's-
step too far.
it's a bit of a red flag,
And so her friends had said that he started becoming very possessive of her, and it got to the point where he was mad if she was even wearing certain things. He tried to control the way she was dressing a lot, and when she was at work, he would go to her work and just hang out there for hours waiting for her to get off.
Okay. Now that's very weird. If we saw before that he had gone off to college, and maybe my guess is he went off to college for football since it seemed like that was his pursuit, then that's very weird to me because as a collegiate athlete, there is really no time.
Yeah, where do
even
you
during
find
the
that time?
off season, there is no time to just sit around. You're working every day. You only get so much off time, and that off time, you're either doing your studies or you're sleeping because you're just so exhausted. So
Right.
that's one of those he's not on what he needs to be doing for real.
Yeah, he's making his own time and sort of just kind of neglecting the things that he needs to be focused on more than what she's doing.
And so going back to the relationship with her friends, when she did go out with her friends without Riley, he would be obsessively calling and texting her. He did not trust her whatsoever, and he really wanted to know where she was and what she was doing at all times and with who.
Oh, wow.
So again, on that stalking and controlling point of view. It's just
That's one of those, you gotta give some trust in her. You gotta in that relationship, in any relationship, you have to trust the person to some point. I mean,
Right.
But I mean, he never also got to a point to trust her friends.
good point, but he never
But
wanted to know them.
That's
so.
also on him.
Yeah.
He never made an effort to like
Reach
even
out.
meet her friends, let alone hang out with them enough for
Get
her
on
to
their
trust
good
them.
side.
Like get on their good, for them to get on his good side even.
yeah, even that.
And just to be clear, she never had tried to go and get away from him up to this point, right? She's still with him happily.
They had been on and off, so I guess in a way you can say she tried to get away sometimes, but it wasn't like she was trying to end it for good yet.
Yeah, like she
And
still had feelings
when
for
she
him.
did end it for good, that's when it got bad.
Okay, gotcha.
And then now, even though this time now he's in college, right?
Yes.
And she's still in high school.
Yes.
So
Jesus,
that's definitely,
imagine like having like
it's right.
That's a little weird.
And
That's weird.
she's not just in high school. She still has
A couple years
time
left.
left
Right.
in high school.
yeah,
Like,
she's a
it's not like
junior
she's-
now.
It's not like she's a senior in high school at
Yeah,
this point.
she's a junior now,
Yeah.
and she's still going through all this with some college dude.
Right.
That's one of those you definitely gotta leave it. I mean, at that point, you made it illegal yourself.
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean-
he's in college, you're still in high school. There is no
I mean,
relationship.
by
You
the
can't do
math, he's 18, she's 16 right now.
Right.
That's a
that.
pretty
Yeah,
far
older.
Or
leap.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
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 And speaking on the point of things being legal versus illegal, there were messages that he sent that were used against him in court, and I will just warn you, the messages that I have that I'm going to be saying are not something you would say to somebody that you claim is a very big part of your life. So eventually he started sending very aggressive messages to her via Snapchat. And one of these in particular had said, "You are dead to me, and I'll check the obituary. F you." And he would also threaten that he would commit suicide if she did not get back together with him. And
Okay.
this toxicity didn't end there. It got into a vicious cycle where they would fight, get really nasty with each other, and then they would make up and get back together. Everything would be good for a while, and then they would break up, fight, and do the whole thing all over again.
That's
Yep.
one of those, if that gets to that point, she probably doesn't have the mentality of like, some people were like, go ahead, do it, I'm done with you. She is probably still like, since they've been on and off for so long, she's probably like, oh, I don't want this to happen to him. She wants to go back to the guy.
Yeah.
But truly, if you had the guts to it, you would just say, okay, go ahead, do it. I mean, I really don't. I don't care anymore.
His actions and the things he's saying are not things that you do or say to someone that you claim to care about and like that you want to be a part of your life. That's not something you do.
So, and you really don't say this to any people.
Right, you don't, especially you
Yeah.
don't say it to anyone, especially people you claim to care about. Though.
Yeah, not even in an argument. Like, no matter how bad it gets, if you still actually are involved with this person.
Right, like you're dead to me. That's not something you say when you care about.
And on
somebody.
top of that, he added the extra side of, "I'll check the obituary."
Yeah, that's
Like, what is that supposed to mean?
right.
Is that him foreshadowing something?
Like,
he's
is
gonna
that
do?
a death
This is some
threat?
Eminem type stuff right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Emma's parents really wanted to try and end this relationship, especially since it was so on and off. And they eventually banned him from coming to their house and also took her phone in an effort to try and control her communication with him. But, however, Riley gave her an iPod Touch, and they were able to communicate without her parents knowing. And her parents were happy that they had some separation when he went off to college, but obviously it wasn't that much separation. And when he left for college, her parents banned her from talking to him, and her parents then banned her from leaving the house unless it was for school or cheerleading practice. And this started to work for a while, and she started acting like her old self again. Like can be assumed, Riley and Emma chose that they would continue dating when he went to college, which we kind of mentioned that earlier, but
illegal.
But right before Thanksgiving break in 2016, Emma saw Snapchats of Riley with other girls on campus, which made her really, really upset. And Emma then officially broke up with Riley for good. And she decided that she deserved better than that, and especially if he wasn't going to take their relationship seriously and respect her enough to not take pictures with other girls. So her parents were very, very relieved, and they felt like this was the time that she was serious about breaking up with him, and they were hoping to get the old Emma back. So making strides in the right direction, but it quickly declined again with how Riley reacted. So he did not handle the breakup well at all. And right after they broke up, he decided to attempt suicide by drinking a bunch of alcohol and taking a bunch of Vicodin pills. Luckily, he was not successful in his attempt, but he was still not taking things very well at this point. And his friends and family were very concerned about him at this time. And so, going towards more sketchy acts and texts and things like that, on November 18th, 2016, which, if you recall, is about 3 days before she died, it was a Friday night, and Emma's school had won this big football game. And one of her friends was having a little after party at her house, and Emma's parents decided that she would be allowed to go since it seemed like things had gotten a lot better. And it seemed like she was not talking to Riley anymore. So this is where things start to go bad again. She was at the party when all of a sudden she started receiving these sketchy messages around 11:30 p.m. And these messages were threatening her, saying, quote unquote, "I've got someone you love, I'm going to harm them. Come outside if you don't want to see them get hurt." So obviously she was very concerned, but she did think that maybe there was a chance it was Riley's friends playing a prank on her. So shortly after, she got another text that said, quote unquote, "He is in a ditch beside her house. It's a shame you can all of a sudden not value someone else's life." So I think that's really trying to get her thinking about Riley again, and it's kind of trying to get her worried about his safety and to get her to see him again is what Riley is really trying to do. Which, it's a messed up way to do it, but it's the way he chose to do it.
Yeah, it's a very messed up way to do this. But at the same time, he had it coming upon himself before this is happening, because he was talking to other girls in college. If he was actually in a relationship, he probably wouldn't have done that. So since he knew he was going to college, relationships are hard to keep if it's like two different colleges or long distance. If you're in college, because you're with older women, and there's more women, and you can get to talk to them and get to know them. So that's sometimes we have to either cut it or just make sure you're trusting yourself or being trustful to her and making a promise or some line that you won't mess it up. So that's one of those.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of trust that goes into that. If you're gonna keep a relationship going, and if you see something that betrays that trust, then you have every right to leave that relationship. And Emma saw something that she didn't like, and so she left the relationship. And I feel like this is not the right way to go about getting her back at all. This is...
Yeah, Riley, he took it into his own hands to try to figure this out.
If anyway, message her, even though, you shouldn't in the first place, message her saying the picture is not what you think it is, and explain yourself, during the breakup situation, or in the middle of that sense, to tell her that what you did was not what she was thinking, and then try to convince her mind that you are okay and she is okay with the relationship still, instead of doing this Because you had already had like contact with her behind your parents' back in the first place. So I mean, while you still had it in the sense, talk to her about what you did or what she saw, so then you can defend yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it feels like it's crazy to jump from like, oh, maybe I should say something to her to this. You know.
Yep. And I mean, as you'll see later on, it gets to the point where he switches his tactics up. Instead of it saying, it might be Riley that's the one that's hurt, it's saying that, she needs protection from Riley, so she needs to see Riley.
Right, so more mind.
And I mean, that is in the coming days as...
more mind controlling.
We'll see. But after this last text is when Emma and her friend decided that they were going to go outside and check it out. And when they went outside, they saw a man face down on the ground near the bushes by the end of the driveway of this girl's house. And this man was, of course, Riley. He started waking up and acting super confused, having no idea how he ended up there. And he said that someone kidnapped him and he had no idea where he was or how he ended up there. They said that he was just holding his head like somebody hit him or knocked him out. And after he got up, he called one of his friends to pick him up, and he told his friend that someone had knocked him out, put him in a car, and had taken him to this place. And even his own friend did not believe this. And Emma had a feeling that something was very odd about this whole thing, and she wished that Riley would just leave her alone and let her move on with her life. Which is kind of like what we were saying before, is just accept it and move on at this point.
Right.
Like, instead of taking it to these measures of, acting like you got kidnapped and knocked out and this and that,
Right.
just to get her attention, just move on at that point.
Yeah, at this point.
Like, it was an on and off relationship for like 2 years.
You're probably, I think by this time, you're a grown man in college. You can find other females or, women to talk to and have another relationship with and still going for a high schooler, which probably at this time is illegal in this case. But yeah, you have other opportunities, and but at the same sense, going back to earlier, you're a football player in college. You don't have this time as what's happening right now. You don't have any time.
You don't have the time to mess around and think about other things. You just kind of have to focus on
football. You don't have any time. If you're an actual collegiate athlete, there is no time by yourself. And in that off time, you're rarely texting a girl or trying to do whatever this crazy stuff is. You're sleeping or you're in your book, so you can still be productive in what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it again, it's just crazy for him to go to these measures. I mean, just move on, bro. At this point, it's clear that she doesn't want that relationship anymore. And so I think it's just, it's time to accept that and move on and find someone else. Instead of trying all of these crazy tactics and all this crazy stuff to try and win her back when it's really just going to make things worse,
And so on November 19th, 2016, which 2 days before she died, around 10:15 a.m., Emma was home getting ready to go meet her mom somewhere when someone started banging on her front door. And this really freaked her out, and she was home alone at the time. So she ended up texting Riley and saying that she, quote-unquote, hated him but needed him. So he decided to drive to her house, and when Emma did not end up meeting her mom where she was supposed to, her mom drove back to the house. And this is when she saw Emma and Riley sitting on the driveway talking to each other. And then she decided to go over there and tell him that he had to leave, and he did. And so the next day, November 20th, Emma was still very shaken up about the person banging on her door and the weird text messages, Riley being kidnapped or whatever it was. And it was all very, very intense for her. And it seemed like she was starting to calm down. So she had work that day, so her parents ended up following her to and from work to make sure she was okay and nobody was following her or whatever. And they were very concerned about her clearly. And later that night, Emma and her dad went out and got some ice cream at Sonic. And then her dad noticed that Emma was starting to act a little bit more like herself, calming down after the weekend's events. And that night, Emma got ready for bed like normal. Her dad said goodnight to her like normal, and then she went to sleep. Mm-hmm. And this is where everything switches gears and everybody's life changes. So in the middle of the night, her dad heard a really loud banging noise, and he said it sounded as if someone was in the house slamming a door really hard. And he woke up and was startled by this. He heard it again. And he ran out of bed to check on Emma and her brother. When he opened Emma's door, he saw her in bed, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. She just looked like she was laying there asleep. And Emma's dad was just convinced that he was, maybe hearing things, or it was something off in the distance or whatever, and everything seemed normal in their house, so he had just gone back to bed. So at 6 a.m. on November 21st, 2016, her parents were getting up and getting ready, starting their morning routine per usual, and her mom went into Emma's room to wake her up. She was normally really easy to wake up, and she wasn't a very deep sleeper at all, and she was not impossible to get out of bed by any means. And to that, she was usually a morning person. So her mom thought it was really unusual that she wasn't responding to her when she first tried to wake her up. She tried bumping her leg, she called her name several times, and Emma would just not wake up. And instantly her mom knew that something was wrong. And she checked for a pulse, looked at her face, and realized she then did not have a pulse. And she called 911. So paramedics got there very fast, and they first believed it was some type of suicide or overdose or something that had happened to her in her sleep. And some unknown cause was what they determined it at first. So when she did not show up to school that day, word started getting out that something had happened to her, and this is when Riley started making social media posts about her. And that's just not something you would expect, at least in my mind. You just, from a guy that was saying that possibly he was taking her completely out of his life and, from context of earlier, possibly wanted her dead, he's making social media posts about her. Like that he misses her and stuff like that, and that she'll be missed. He just completely did a 180.
I was gonna say, it depends on what the context and contents of these posts were, because you can speak on things in a number of different ways, and so it's just it's.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It is weird that he would go back, make that whole 180.
And it's saying all these tributes to Emma and how much he loved her in their relationship and how much he really wanted to be with her and these type of things. And it's just not something you would expect.
No.
And the thing was, Emma was such a well-known girl and such a loved girl that it just shocked people that she was dead.
Right, but this shows how social media control a different personality than real life. This shows that he is caring and loving, but in the real world, he was
manipulative.
A terrible person, really bad person. But social media, if he didn't post anything before, and then now, since it's big and up and, it's being heard about, then he can shoot his personality and tweet about it as he has and pull this fake 180 that I'm guessing and, portray this. Because no one knew what he really was except for his surrounding group. So Emma, her family, and whatever he had.
it's really easy to put on that sort of facade on social media where it's like only let people see like a certain side of you. It's really easy to do that, and so I mean we see it often with like a lot of celebrities and stuff. We see all their stuff on social media about like different like maybe social issues that they comment on and like are supporting or and stuff like that, and then like you hear about these interviews or like these talks they've had with like fans and stuff that go directly against everything that they say,
right,
and everything that they say they believe in,
whether that be for a good or bad instance.
Right.
And so there was a candlelit vigil held for her, and there was a lot of public mourning. And people were shocked that this happened to such a young girl, and people were demanding to know what exactly had happened. So, on to the crime scene and the detectives. So, the detectives had showed up at the crime scene, and at first, like previously stated, they thought it was some type of accident or unknown natural causes. And that's when they noticed that there was a hole in the wall, and the hole was about as wide as a pin. So not very wide at all. And what they determined was that there were 2 bullets shot into the corner that her bed was in. And detectives figured that whoever had shot a gun through the wall of this house clearly knew that this was Emma's bedroom and where exactly her bed was. So detectives started trying to talk to her peers and asked if there was anyone who would want to harm Emma or anybody that had anything against her. And guess whose name kept coming up? Riley's. Detectives went to Riley's dorm and talked with him. Now, however, at this point, there was nothing that made police believe he was a strong suspect. Riley's friends were actually worried about him because he had recently attempted suicide, and now a girl that he used to love is dead. And they were concerned that he might harm himself in some way, or that he would just take it to another level. And then one of Riley's friends told detectives something that Riley had told them the Saturday before Emma was killed. So Riley apparently told his friend Alex that he had stolen his grandfather's gun as a way of protecting himself after he was quote-unquote kidnapped, or what we know as the staged kidnapping. And his friends were really concerned about him having this gun on him if he was suicidal. But he reassured them that he was not, and he merely had it for protection. But by the next morning, or the next following Monday morning, Riley was already considered a person of interest in Emma's death. And detectives started asking him about what he was up to the night of Emma's death. And they asked where he was, and he had said he was at his friend Noah's house. They asked if he slept over, and he was pretty sure he did. So again, that uncertainty from him kind of puts him into a suspect mindset.
I don't understand how you can be pretty sure you slept over at someone's house.
Like, unless there was drinking involved, that's the only way.
Right, that's a very definitive, like, yes or no question.
Did you sleep at this person's house? I don't know.
Like, no, that's a really bad answer. Like, Jesus, like, man, if you don't remember like that, like, holy smokes, like, if that's your friend, you remember a lot of stuff that you give him, man. But you're right. If it did come
personally, I remember sleeping at my friend's house, whether it's 3 or 4 years ago, and like I remember like some of the games that we played that night, or like if we watched YouTube or something. I remember that.
Right.
But like you're not gonna remember if you slept at your friend's house the day before.
Right. Like, come on now. Like, if there was drinking involved, okay, at least say that.
We don't even know if there was.
You know, if there was, potentially say that, and then be like,
that's why I might not remember.
That's why I might not remember. But if there wasn't, and you're clean, man, you just.
And
you gave yourself up.
Exactly.
You gave yourself
putting yourself as the number one suspect.
That's
you gave yourself.
That was very unexpected. I was not expecting to hear that bad of an answer.
Like the fact that I know about this case, whereas you two don't necessarily know a lot about it, or at least as much as I do.
Yeah.
I'm even shocked.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I knew about that before.
Corporate has pulled
like,
you in to have a little conversation with you,
like,
and that's your answer
how are
to.
You, even if you are the suspect, why are you not going to make up some alibi and be confident about your alibi?
Right. That's just...
man, she's... That
fumbled at the goal line.
Yeah, really. Like,
bro, that's bad. Like, that's bad. I mean...
And so... Another thing that struck them as strange is that he never mentioned Emma's name at all during questioning. The entire 2 hours that he was being interviewed, he continuously described her as, quote-unquote, the girl.
Okay.
So he said during the interview that they were very concerned about him because he seemed completely emotionless and very detached, which it's not an unusual thing for people being interrogated or interviewed to be like that. Because if you look into the JonBenet Ramsey case, her dad, John Ramsey, was just an emotionless guy in general.
Yeah.
So, again, that's not unusual, so that doesn't really...
That doesn't
help us in any way,
anything.
saying that he's a suspect.
Yeah, that one doesn't show anything.
So then Riley ended up telling them that he kept trying to text Emma that weekend, but she would only not reply to him and eventually just blocked him.
Okay.
And he claimed that she had told him the only way she would see him is if he helped her with the paper. And Riley claimed he used one of his friend's phones to call her, but he says he was so upset he left his dorm and drove to his grandparents' house, which he got there supposedly around 12:30 a.m. and only stayed for about 45 minutes before coming back to his dorm.
Wow.
And he said at this point he just had an emotional breakdown. And he said that for the next several hours he just sat in his car crying, looking at photos of them together. And then detectives asked him about his grandparents' gun.
Okay.
Or their guns.
All right, let's backtrack just a little bit. So you yourself, Riley, you have put yourself in this situation on yourself, on taking the picture with the girls in college and not, giving.
You're just stacking your case against yourself at this point.
Right. So
and on top of all this, something that I didn't even notice until right now, even knowing about this case, is during interviewing, he was said to be emotionless and emotionally detached.
But bro,
him in interviewing saying that he's an emotionless or emotionally detached guy, and then he comes out and says, he was super emotional when he heard about this, and he was sitting there crying in his car. How are you not emotional in the interviewing room if you're emotional in your car?
I
I get it, you're under a lot more pressure and stress, but if you're emotional in one state, why are you not emotional in the other?
Yeah, that doesn't add up at all. I mean, at the point of, as being emotional on the social media part and talking about it, and then, you're being interrogated. Okay. But if you did have feelings all the way up to this point when she's dead, you would have some relationship, or you would have, you would have some sympathy because you had been with her for all this time, and you would be sad.
I mean,
you've been with her all the way up until this point.
I think it goes without saying that this dude is truly just awful at being a criminal. This dude is awful.
Not that there's any way to be good at being
one,
but
at least
have your alibi straight.
Right.
At least
if you're gonna I'm not
at least have your emotional status straight.
Right. I'm not condoning any crime whatsoever, let alone murder. But if you're gonna do it, at least do it
with everything in line.
Right.
Have everything, have all your acting or all your shenanigans that you did in the beginning add up in what happened when they were interrogating you. Have it all add up, and then you cover yourself up. I mean, this is
right. Have everything figured out at least,
or have it all come together and represent each other.
Yeah,
that's bad. The way you're trying to be a criminal and doing it. I mean, I do not provoke that in any way of doing that. But if you're truly that bad of a person, have it all go together. You're acting.
Yeah,
man, that's bad.
Detectives then asked him about his grandparents' guns. So they asked him where they were, how he had access to them, and if he had ever took one or had a gun on him at all. So Riley, of course, said no to all these questions, and he claimed to never have a gun at all, which we obviously know is not true. And, however, detectives had already talked to his friends who claimed that he showed them the handgun at school. And when they confronted Riley with this information, he basically denied it and said that he had no idea why his friends were claiming this. And at this point, Riley was looking very sketchy. But he still continued to deny that he had possession of any gun. And then his friend Noah came forward and claimed that Riley had asked him if he knew how to get fingerprints off of a gun. And obviously, Noah said no. And Riley then told him that his roommate wanted to know that, and that's why he was wondering. And obviously, Noah thought it was pretty strange and then told detectives about it. So,
I mean, that's very suspicious.
His roommate, huh?
Yeah, my roommate.
Sure.
My roommate needed to know that. That's very suspicious.
that's like saying, yeah, my friend wanted to know how to get rid of a gun that may or may not have been used in a crime to kill somebody.
Hey, how do you get blood off of a knife? That's essentially what you're asking.
Essentially, at this point.
You might as well just straight up say you did it at that point.
Yeah,
At that point, by telling your friend, and if it's something that bad, you know, people are going to squeal because they're not trying to take your stupid charges.
People are going to snitch so fast.
at that point, you might as well just kill your friend too.
I don't know about that.
I mean,
That's just getting yourself another charge that you don't need.
Well, I mean, that's way too deep. But in a sense, I mean, you're not totally wrong, but in a sense, not escalating it that far. But I mean,
in a
being
sense,
dumb by yourself.
he tried to cover
act.
his tracks.
Yeah.
I mean,
by saying that his friends were lying because it's his word against theirs, where he's the one that's saying he had all this trauma towards him over the past couple of days, and you know he might not remember everything because of this trauma or whatever it may be. So like it's his word against theirs, and the fact that he's looking so suspicious again makes it his word against theirs, whereas his is not as credible as theirs.
I feel like your word against mine, that whole argument doesn't work in this situation.
Well, in the case of him against his friends, it does.
Yeah, and you know now we've come to the point.
It works in the sense that he's the untrustworthy one.
Yeah.
Whereas friends are the trustworthy ones with their word against his.
Yeah, but we have now come to the point where he has singled himself out several times.
He's been
up until
saying,
this point, you know.
He's
going back to the interrogation.
He's put situations where he has said that he said something to his friends, but he's also where he's said that he said stuff to his friends, but also where he's said stuff himself to detectives.
Right.
But as soon as Riley left questioning, he immediately texted his friend Noah and asked him why he snitched on him about having the gun and the whole fingerprint thing. And Noah basically said, quote unquote, well, if you didn't do anything, you should have nothing to hide and shouldn't be worried about it.
Right. Right. I mean, that scarcity of you being scared. And that shows, you know, this is showing that.
You're just incriminating yourself.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you know, if you didn't do anything, even though you asked that,
you shouldn't have told your friends.
Very questionable question of all. But I mean, now you're scared for what reason? If you didn't do anything, you surely didn't. You shouldn't be scared that he told the police.
Even if you're the number one suspect, why are you scared? If you have nothing to hide, no evidence towards you, if you think you have nothing to hide and no evidence towards you, why are you scared?
Yeah, why are you scared that you told him that?
Life's the fullest, you know. If you don't have anything against you, then you might as well just go and say, hey, you know.
I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This dude is awful at being a murderer. Like, he is just awful.
Well, not that there's any way.
Like, I mean, it's not
good.
like... Well, it's like...
Well, Zodiac and Golden
Like,
State,
yeah,
stuff like
like,
that.
I mean,
but.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude is just awful. He has not come up with an alibi. He doesn't...
He can't put two and two together. I mean, it's horrible.
Who goes to a friend that they can't trust...
Or they think they can trust.
Or getting fingerprints off of a gun. That's just... You have the internet.
Figure that out on your own.
Well,
Don't tell
not
anybody
even
about
if you have
that.
the internet. At what point, not that I'm condoning any of this, but at what point do you just say to yourself, why would I ask somebody else instead of just disposing of the weapon?
Or keeping it for...
Well, why would you keep it? Because then your fingerprints are on it.
Well, if you're going to use it again.
You could just get another.
Well, but like, what reason would he have to use it again?
Yeah.
Because he's already gotten rid of the
Right.
person that he
and
was,
then
he
at
was
that
trying to
point,
get rid of.
I mean, at the same point,
Or
like,
trying to scare
like
at
you
least.
said, dispose of the murder weapon.
Which, as we'll see
Yeah.
later, he tried.
He tried.
He tried it.
You know,
But Riley ended up telling Alex that he got rid of the gun and it went back to his grandparents' house. However, right after this, Riley's mom came into his room and started asking him about the supposed gun and where it is. To which he said, quote unquote, "I do not have one. There is no gun." And at this point, Alex and Noah are starting to feel like he did it with this constant lying to his mom and them. And then Riley actually asked his friends to no longer speak to the police because in the meantime, he needed to figure out what to do with the gun to get rid of it because he did not want to be blamed for something he didn't do.
quote unquote. Okay.
Yeah, if you didn't do it while you were asking.
Again,
Riley,
like
right,
we were
yeah,
just saying.
Like
if you
Riley,
didn't
quote
do
unquote.
it- If you didn't do it, why are you worried?
I mean, yeah, this is totally. I mean, right? This is this is totally setting yourself out. You know,
I mean, around what
when you're second guessing yourself and.
But like again, why try and cover yourself up? Like let's say there's a murder that happened somewhere with a .22 caliber pistol. Not everybody in that area is going to try and get rid of their .22 caliber pistol because maybe I did it. Maybe they're going to suspect me. Right. Yeah, they might investigate you, but they're going to quickly list you as not a suspect because it's not you.
Right. You know.
And he's just trying to hide everything.
I mean, you know, at this point, you know, like Joey
At
said,
this point-
you're bad at it. I mean, you know, you're being scared over this. Even though if you really, truly, 100% claim that you had nothing to do with killing her, what you were saying on your other reality on, you know, the internet and social media, that you had all this love and you said that she's dead, you shouldn't, you know, you should still have that.
You should
But
have
in the
consistency.
Right. And
That's
then,
the thing.
you
People
know,
that are innocent have consistency.
He's folded.
This guy has zero consistency whatsoever.
yeah, it's folded.
But
He's folded under pressure. I mean, like
exactly.
it's there's no good like way. You shouldn't kill people, but like if you're gonna do it right,
And have consistency to your story.
And like it's like he's snitching on himself.
And
like,
I'm literally about to get to that right now.
This is the definition of fumbling the bag.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This
I'll-
man,
He's
like,
fumbling big time. like,
He's fumbling at the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
he did everything he was not supposed to do.
right.
You know, this gets
He's
to,
fumbling at his own 1 yard line at this
and this
point.
gets to the point of I do not, you know, do
Condone
not do
any of
this. Yeah, you know, but
Don't
if,
go out and kill somebody.
right. If you're
please.
gonna do this, you know, as they say, if you tell a lie, you have to keep,
Hypothetically.
you know, hypothetically speaking. But for real, when you do tell a lie, you have to tell another one, tell
Yeah, to
another
keep-
one,
to
tell
try and
another
keep
one,
your
to
story
try to
straight.
keep your stupid convincing that we all know is baloney.
But,
you know, to keep it. I mean, to keep it going.
To go off of what Joey said a couple minutes ago, he's snitching on himself. And because Noah and Alex were basically positive that Riley's the one that killed her, they decided to secretly work with the police. And they decided that they would help him try to get rid of the gun while working with the police. They knew that it was one piece of evidence that they needed to get him convicted.
Double agent.
And if they were able to get fingerprints or somehow connect it to him, it's pretty much over. He's convicted.
Wait.
You know, it's almost pretty much over now.
So-
but they just need
Well,
more,
yeah.
They
so-
just need more evidence because it's.
So were his friends working to try to keep the gun away from police or
So-
give it to the police?
So initially, they didn't know anything about him doing it, but they suspected him of doing it. And so his friends decided to work with the police to go along with Riley's plan of trying to ditch the gun in a river. And when he went to go ditch this gun, they kind of went with him and had cops follow him to get him.
I mean, it's just like why?
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't trust
I mean,
nobody
I-
these days, you know? That's what I'm
I mean, you know, that is a great, you know, just why. I mean, just.
Like,
It is a really why.
To
be
go
honest.
on with Alex and Noah going undercover with the cops. So the next day, Riley and Alex went over to Riley's house to play video games and to chill and hang out. But little did Riley know, his friends were actually wearing mics. And they also had a camera inside of a key fob that was given to them by police. And while they were hanging out, eventually the conversation came up about Emma, and they were really pushing for that the entire time to talk about Emma. And Riley denied he had any involvement, again, but that could also be because he knew they had talked to the police before, and he didn't want them to go back to the police and tell them anything. And Riley is then caught saying this about the gun. Quote unquote, just, it needs to be gone. For whatever reason, it just needs to be gone. You guys don't have to come with me if you don't want to. If it's in the Tennessee River, they will never find it.
Oh my God. You just said where
He
it's
is
going.
the most
Well, then again, he didn't know they were wearing mics.
Right?
But he even suspected
Exactly.
it, and he continued to go and
that's like-
say
right.
exactly where he would
Yeah.
put it.
And
That's
then-
like like
Alright.
telling a toddler, don't go touch the outlet on the wall.
Next thing
What
you know,
are
the
they
dog's
gonna
gonna be
wanna
sticking
go
his
do?
tongue through the.
What are they going to go do?
I mean,
They're going
and
to
not
touch
to
the
mention-
outlet.
Not to mention, he's talking to the same friends that already snitched on him.
Exactly.
And
That's
then,
my point.
hey, main key word in there. They will never find it. The they has to be the police, right?
Exactly.
It's a pronoun. You're just putting that in.
And to the point
So-
of him not liking that they ever said anything to police, he told them that he wanted them to take back their statements from the police and say they were just tripping on drugs, and that's why they were confused.
You
Okay,
realize
so
how
you're
hard
just-
it is
yeah.
to recant a statement from the police?
And to say that you
Right.
were on drugs?
That's like,
Hey, so
What?
let's say you just have this pile that you have started of yourself with this, evidence that you have sold yourself already. All right, the pile is above and beyond because you have given them all your evidence.
You have literally all the evidence pointed against you right now.
They just need to actually be able to file it up and
Right.
figure
It's,
out.
this is
I
like-
mean,
this isn't a matter of who did it anymore. This is like, how much evidence can we get against this guy? Because we know he did it. We just can't. We just don't have the evidence to convict him yet.
all right, and
honestly, he already knows his friends are against him, and yet he still tells them this type of stuff.
And he's trying to hide from the
Right.
police
I mean, yeah.
by talking to his friends that talk to the police.
Right,
Called,
'cause-
it's time to get the hell out of Dodge. There's no way that you're surviving.
Right.
I mean, yeah, he said Tennessee River, main place, designated area. They will never find it. Why would you say they? I mean, why would you even bring it up if you're truly innocent?
And on top of that, they all got into a car, and the first stop was at his stepdad's house, where he got said gun,
Oh,
hopped
man.
back into the car, and the three of them went to go grab some fast food, while the gun was sitting in the car
Alright.
in a trash bag.
So, quick question: do they have cameras, or was that just
So
on the door?
in a key, so there was a key fob that the police gave them.
Oh, so they
They
still
had
have
a camera
They have
inside of it,
cameras right now.
but they have mics on them.
yeah.
I don't know if there's any recording from the actual car ride and stuff like that, but I know there was audio from it.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you turn up the music, then they can't really hear the voices too. You know?
But he's
Well,
not that smart.
He's not that smart. as we
He's
see.
not that.
This
bright.
guy is like,
But meanwhile, while all of this was happening, undercover cop cars were following them. And Noah and Alex were also texting police officers in a group chat, letting them know what was going on and what they were doing.
he had a whole group chat with the ops, bro. You're
And-
done.
And they finally got to a parking lot where they were close enough to the river. And this is where they decide to get out and bring the gun down to the river.
Okay.
This is when Riley puts on gloves and very carefully starts taking out the gun. And now this is when he wants to take precautions, apparently.
Now he puts on the gloves.
Alex
I
and
mean,
Noah.
yeah.
Alex and Noah then text police and tell them that it's a good time to come over to the car. And then Riley was then arrested. So, like I was kind of hinting to earlier with the fake kidnapping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was staging that went on even more.
Yeah.
And so, while police were going through that trash bag, the gun was in. They also found a bunch of black clothing that was Riley's, probably from that night where he shot Emma. And this made them believe that Riley was also the man that came knocking at her door, trying to scare her. And clearly all the weird events were just staged by Riley to try and come and rescue Emma and for her to need his help.
And like I'm going to say, I'm going to keep saying it as well as all.
He's the dumbest criminal I know.
And we do not condone this at all, but if you're going to do these said things.
Keep your story straight.
And who keeps the clothes
and also, and also at
There's
this
something
time,
called a fire or a trap.
Why would you wear the glove now when your fingerprints aren't?
Exactly.
If you're going to do this said thing, make sure you do it. Do not do this at all.
Don't do it in general,
whatsoever. But I mean, Jesus,
you're well past the point of
not doing it.
You're well past the point of precaution here. Like, there's already fingerprints on the gun that you used to kill this girl.
Right, and so now you think to pull out
you've already
to throw it in the water will save you.
You've already convicted yourself. Just stop, give up, and go to trial.
This isn't something that you include your friends in either. Like, just in general, you probably shouldn't let them know that you just murdered someone.
And, like, why would your friends agree to come? Here's the thing that I don't understand. I've never understood this. Why did he not think it was suspicious that his friends willingly came with him to go dispose of the gun?
No one just,
But like at the same time, my friends to go and buy me anything.
Like, but at the same time, why did he need his friends to come with him?
Exactly. Like, why? That also confused me.
Oh, right. Was he going to kill them in that said point? Because they had
told
it was going to be about time. Like I said, they're going to have to get rid of them sometime.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And then what? He would dispose them in the the river. Sorry. The Tennessee River as well with the gun. I mean, these all add up. It's like...
And
it depends on the materials he had with him in the car.
Right, but this all adds up.
He had the gun.
He had the gun. He put the gloves on. I don't think he's just gonna put the gloves. I mean, maybe
because if he didn't put
he's
the
already
glove,
dumb enough
he didn't
to
put
use
the gloves
it
on the first time,
right? So
because he was trying to scare Emma, and once he killed her, it was kind of like, well, now I don't have gloves on. My fingerprints are on this gun.
Right. So now would he have used gloves to kill them?
Exactly. So maybe if he doesn't convicted for anything, he gets convicted for 1 murder, not 3.
But at the same time, you got to remember, if that was his intention was to kill them, then you also have so you're the prime suspect in this murder case, right? And you have your friends involved in it, and then all of a sudden those friends end up dead as well.
Yeah,
that's true.
But he did also say, if you guys want to come,
that's true.
But so does that intent that he would kill them? Maybe, but since they did come, maybe ideas had come to him, like, maybe more snitching and stuff. So it all builds and adds up. So I mean, the question he did add earlier is, if you want to come, you are welcome to. So that doesn't insist that he would necessarily kill them.
Exactly.
So,
but
these are all good.
Like I was kind of mentioning earlier, getting to their trial, or to his trial. So May of 2018 is when his trial was, and his defense team decided to say that it wasn't a murder, but a reckless homicide.
Wow.
But again, homicide though. I mean, but they're trying to say that he didn't intentionally kill her. He was trying to scare her. But it threw the court off because they were surprised that his defense team admitted he's the one who fired the gun. Okay. And they
so you have your own defense team who has snitched on you.
Like I just said.
But it's because you had no backup evidence, and they have it all add up, and they're like, you can add something,
like I just said, his defense. He was hoping that the gun would scare her, and that she would call him to come rescue her.
But in that sense of case, that is also another felony because
that's something
you're scaring somebody with a firearm.
A deadly weapon.
Or threatening them with a firearm, whatever.
And on top of that, the prosecution said that this was all BS because of where the bullets actually were shot into the house. Whoever shot the gun knew exactly where to shoot in order to kill her. Right. And this was not just to get her attention. There were over 30 witnesses at the trial, and it took over a week to get through everything.
Oh. Wow.
So at his conviction, May 8th, 2018, he was convicted of first-degree murder and 6 other felonies.
Wow.
He was sentenced to life and over 50 years in prison before he gets a chance for parole. And these felonies included felony murder, stalking, theft, reckless endangerment, tampering with evidence, and being in possession of a firearm during a dangerous felony. He's tried for parole multiple times. He's been denied. He's tried for a retrial, been denied.
Well, at this point,
This is one reason why I like solved cases, because then we don't have to speculate anymore.
Right, and then at this point, I mean, you might as well sign your papers for death row and go kill yourself.
No.
You're done. Your life is done. Might as well go, hey, can I get these documents to go to death row and get my last good meal and die?
Or like, at some point, what are your
plans?
At some point, what do you say? You don't just, go about your life and stop trying to fight it because you're not going to get parole.
Right. I mean, but like I'm saying, you might as well kill yourself. Even though there's life, you're going to get a parole, but it's still life and 50 years on top of that. So,
in his case scenario, as much as I don't want to say he's a half-decent guy because of what he did, he still has a chance to change and come out of it. Obviously, it's not very likely, but he still has a chance of it. So
he needs to find God.
I'm not gonna wish death upon this dude.
Yeah, but I mean, he did kill
He did kill
a young
somebody.
woman who was probably in her future. She had it planned out. It seemed like she was on a roll and she knew what she wanted to do with her life. Yeah. So I mean, at that point, you killed somebody who seemed like they had an idea of what they wanted to do with their life, which it seemed like a great idea, and you took it away from them. And then you being a football player and doing that, like you might have a future. You were busy on your own. I mean, you had taking the time, really early, like we said. You took time to do this. Like, what hate had you built up, or what? I mean, what was going on in your mind? I mean, you're with football. You have no time to, your mind might be crazy, I mean, during that, but you can get it
exactly
fixed. I mean, fixed and stuff during that, but you had no time during football.
And I mean, in conclusion to that, as we started this episode off, we did say that he was convicted, which he is obviously still in prison. And he has a long time left.
Right.
And this is the end of the third episode of the University School True Crime Podcast after Dom's last words.
I do just want to say, as a defense attorney, I do want to go to school for being a lawyer, but the moment I hear 30 witnesses...
It's done.
I'm walking out of the courtroom. There's no way to defend against 30 witnesses.
30 people saw what happened.
No, you're done.
You're done.
See ya. I'm done.
Come on. You can write me my check though.
That'll be $300.
Make sure the family gets me my money. I'll head out.
Exactly. Give me the check right now. I'll leave. All right. See you guys.
30 witnesses. Wow.